Good morning, everybody. Today we are going to present the case for private LLMs. There's a lot of material to go through here, so we can just jump right in. I think the original description of this had private LLMs and also SLMs, which are small language models. Frankly, let's put the SLMs off on a different topic, and I'm sorry if you came for that specifically, but we can do that in a couple of weeks. Just one second. It says that there might be a problem here with LinkedIn. I hope you're seeing this. Just one second, please. Just one second. Emily, can you see me on the LinkedIn? Tell me in Slack. All right, well, let's try it again. Anyway, let's just go and we'll go, okay? So the case for private LLMs, just what we'd like to do is we think that private LLMs have advantages in impact, security, performance, flexibility, and sustainability. And we've got about 20 or so, 25 points here that address each of these, and we'll go through them. So just real briefly, a private LLM, a large language model, such like ChatGPT or OpenAI or Gemini from Google, are all from very large companies, but these are not private necessarily. These are what I call public, or maybe SaaS, or maybe MaaS, model as a service. You've got your AI, you subscribe to it. A private LLM is something that would be specific to a company, and it's got its own data, and it's maybe even housed in its own data center within the company for ultimate security and privacy. These private LLMs, there's some specific qualities about them. In most cases, there's going to be superior models given the specific interest that the company might have. There's a niche or an addressable market. They've got a sustainable source of data, and we'll describe what that is. And then there's also maybe a path to independence. So if a company right now, if your company is using OpenAI or some maybe service right now, there are paths to eventually become independent, and we can maybe some of the points that we'll discuss today can show the way towards that. So some top things to consider, and this is what the balance of today's presentation is going to be about, is just going to walk through these steps, right? So first and foremost, if, for example, you're using what we'll call a public LLM like OpenAI, and you ask about, tell me about sustainability. Coca-Cola, Exxon, and Google, you're going to get kind of the most common answer because this public LLM is serving all three companies. So sustainability refers to the present needs, Whereas if this were a private LLM and you ask, tell me about sustainability, Coca-Cola would talk about their water usage. Exxon would talk about how it's trying to transition to cleaner energy sources. Google would talk about its carbon neutrality and how it's promoting its energy uses. So sustainability, a general topic like sustainability, if you use a public LLM, you're going to get a very general answer. Whereas if you're using a private LLM that is fine-tuned and trained on that company's specific position, you're going to get a very specific answer. And we think that this is much more helpful. Similar vein, if you say, what is the sugar content of a 12-ounce Coca-Cola? The public LLM will give will give the correct answer, 39 grams of sugar. Coca-Cola's LLM will also know that because they obviously know. Exxon and Google, they don't care about that. So you're not really going to get a good answer. The other example I often give on this case is, tell me about the French Revolution. Well, if this is a drive-through for Starbucks, no, the French Revolution shouldn't be coming up in that conversation. That's needless information. And in fact, it actually might impact the overall performance of the LLM if you've got, mountains and mountains amounts of irrelevant data. LLMs, or these private LLMs, they can actually become intellectual property for a company. They can become a company asset, if you will. For example, in a public LLM model, company data goes to a SaaS engine, and that just becomes part of the public information out there, everybody. Similarly, a SaaS model is giving you a chatbot, but it's also based on public data. There's nothing unique to the company. There's no specific assets, intellectual property assets for the company. Whereas if this is a private LLM, Company data can lead to an open source engine, an open source AI engine, which could be privately trained, which could become a company answer bot. Everything in this blue, that can all become a company intellectual property asset. Sources must be secure. Source data must be secure. The bright red line of data leak is when, for example, Samsung, I think we all heard the case 2 years ago now. Samsung was trying to use OpenAI, and so they uploaded all their material onto OpenAI, and suddenly, boom, that went into the OpenAI data stack. It was a huge scandal for Samsung. Similarly, your chatbot, well, you're also relying on public information there too. So, you can't use anything private. This is technically a data leak, right? Data needs guardrails. To train your private LLM, you want company data. You want to use the pile, which is kind of, it's a commonly used term for essentially the source of human knowledge, Wikipedia, all the internet content going back to 1990, such like that. You've got your own order database. You've got your own ERP information. That can all be fed into company data. Careful, you do not want to upload any top secret information. You don't want to upload payroll information. You don't want to upload your bank account numbers. You don't want to upload porn or anything like that, anything illegal. So data, when you're setting up your private LLM, make sure you pay attention to the guardrails. Similarly, data should be sourced for data for which you have the rights. Don't just go scanning Reddit. Don't go scanning Facebook because you don't have the rights for that. Certainly don't download the NFL or TikTok or Twitter unless you've got the rights to use that data. If you don't, it's going to cause legal problems down the road for your private LLM. Model security is equally important. And here again, just as with most software, and for those who know, I've got a long background in open source. I used to work for Red Hat a long time ago. Open source, once open source enters kind of a vertical market in the software, it tends to take over, which is a good thing in my opinion. And as we can kind of see in this graph from Archive, the initial models were all proprietary models up until about 2002. And then now, as you can see, the open source models are coming fast and furious. The open source models are pretty much they provide a secure environment, both in business terms and in data privacy terms. The open source models are getting a larger and larger share of the market. When you're looking at models, you want to adopt a platform, not just a specific model. And again, there's a plethora of models out there. Some of them survive, some of them don't. You want to look at the overall corporate sponsors of these model engines to see, is this a secure company? Is it sustainable? And I mean sustainable as in both business sustainable and maybe environmentally sustainable as well, is an important thing, because AI models do eat a lot of power and a lot of water to cool all those GPUs everywhere. Hosting and your IT network and security does apply to an LLM. For example, if you have a private LLM, this can be hosted on premises in your own data center. We've done this. Our company, Iterate, has done this for a number of financial institutions so far, where this is completely separated and it's in the bank or the insurance company's own data center in the basement. Or it could be a private cloud instance, either in Amazon or Azure. Microsoft is making some very good progress on this, and they're giving their clients isolated versions of Azure. There still might be some security questions there that would depend on the contract. But in a shared cloud instance, there is no security. So again, that's something to consider when you're looking at your private LLM, how to deploy it. The IT security, all those standard security questions, they still apply here. LLMs can be measured. And here's just some sample graphics that we found. When you want to look at latency, you want to look at tunability, you want to look at hallucination controls, there's all the standard platforms. There are a number of benchmarks and benchmarking tools that are becoming available to judge the LLM on which you use. And in some cases, the private LLM will greatly outperform the public versions, whereas the public versions, just due to their sheer size, they're going to always be larger and bigger, and in some cases faster, in other cases maybe not as fast. Latency is crucial. Here again, in a private LLM, you can tune things to where you've got your own pipelining, your own LLM optimizations, and even you can control the hardware on what you want to do. Whereas a public LLM, there's the pipelining, but really the only thing that's within your control is the API utilization. You don't really have any control of these other things. Now, again, in the larger companies like Gemini from Google, or or Amazon or OpenAI, they're throwing hardware at this, and we've all seen the NVIDIA stock price as a result of that. But if you need to have that finer level of control, then you will want to have the private LLM will give you more options on how you maybe want to tune the overall environment for your LLM performance. Model switching, some models are better than others. Again, a different task. And here's a table just that shows, is it better at generating code or integrating search documents or marketing materials or generating images? Some of the engines are better than others. And obviously, this is going to be a constant horse race. They are moving ahead. As you can see on the list here, video is not even in any of the columns, but OpenAI is certainly now way out in front with their Sora deployment, or excuse me, offering for the video. Now, a little bit of a shout out. Our team here at Iterate, we have something called GenPilot. And GenPilot will allow you and your organization to select which engine you want to use. And it gives you the fine tuning and the other controls that you may want to do to configure your own private LLM. And again, shameless self-promotion here. If anybody's interested in learning more about this, reach out to me or send us a note, and we'd be happy to have that discussion with you there. Thank you. Both public LLMs and private LLMs will increase from context window size. And what we mean by that is essentially the ability to ingest more information at that initial kind of prompt interaction level. This is a direct factor of how many tokens it can eat and how things are structured within the LLM. Essentially, it's basically, the human analogy would be how fast can it read, right? And how much can it consume at a time? People who, there are some savants out there who can literally read books, entire paragraphs at a time. This is the equivalent of that. And also a private LLM, and now some of the public LLMs can have a sort of memory. They remember your previous prompts, and so they know what you're interested in. They know what you don't really care about. They know how you ask questions. They're able to respond accordingly. These larger context windows, along with the chat memory and the complex instructions and the system-wide prompts, all should lead to a better experience. A core private LLM has a lot more tools available for the administrators and for the data scientists within the organization. You can do fine-tuning, you can do RAG, which is kind of a way to do structured queries and structured if you've got structured data, such as like an order database or customer database, you can structure that as a sort of RAG, and how would I phrase this? It allows the prompt to be much more precise, is the best way I can do it. And data distilling and pipeline logic, these can all be part of that private training cycle within your own core private LLM. However, in a public LLM model, data tuning, that's up to the SaaS provider. You don't have any control over that. You can do RAG, you can do data distilling or pipeline logic. That all still happens, but it's not any part of the private training. It's part of what the provider is doing here. And they're giving you a good answer bot or whatever the bot you're getting as a service, but it's out of your control. So you're trusting the provider to do all this for you. Token cost is a factor, and these graphs here are from November 2023. They're already out of date. We are working on some updated material, but frankly, it shifts every week. The best thing to do is when you're looking at LLMs, just ask them what is the token cost, and it comes, groups of 10,000 or 100,000, and so you'll just get those costs and go from there. Overall, LLMs that use GPUs can be very expensive in terms of hardware. However, LLMs that can run on a CPU are much more efficient, potentially 1/4 of the cost at the server level. And again, shameless self-promotion here, Iterate is doing some incredible work working with our hardware partners. We are getting LLMs to work on CPUs. So if this is a mass deployment opportunity for your organization, the CPU model for LLMs might be very cost efficient for you. Vendor lock-in is prevalent with its model as a service. Some shops Many organizations, they're in with Microsoft, and that means that everything is on Azure, and so they're good to go, and they're using ChatGPT, and they're using a private of ChatGPT, and so everything's fine. Other shops are within the Google universe. Other companies are within the AWS universe. So each of these large providers have their own specific model or their own AI mega LLM provided for that. And if you are in that universe and you're happy there, then you're okay there. Yeah. And again, going back to the open source and the proprietary engines, again, there's a shift. And we saw that shift in early 2022, and we don't see it going back. Again, if you can just look at the icons above and below the line, before then it was mostly proprietary engines. Now it's mostly open source engines. We think that will only get more and more prevalent. Open source, once open source enters a market, it doesn't get out. It's prevalent that way. And again, fine tuning. When you've got your model running, fine tuning and the RAG and the data distilling, this all can be monitored. Again, just like any other DevOps type performance, look at these tools, look at those benchmarks tools, find out where your performance is best, find out where your performance is lagging, and respond accordingly. Artificial general intelligence, and this is a graph that I didn't make. But artificial intelligence involves a lot of things. In our opinion, as Iterate, we think that some form of AGI will be here at some point. It's going to be very difficult because right now AI is very data rich and it provides a lot of data tools, but the core reasoning and the cause and effect and the robotics and the free association that involves with computer vision, those are still very nascent. So eventually AGI, yes, will be here, but I am very hesitant to know how and where that will play in, because we don't, it's still top of the first inning here, to use baseball, because spring is upon us. And again, data source. Look at sustainability for your data as you build your private LLM. And again, the pile, that's that general source of all knowledge from 1989 or 1990 to the present. You want your own you want your own order database, you want your customer database, you want your core policies in there. Those are all company data. Those are all sustainable sources of new information to always be fine-tuning your LLM. And again, don't steal from Reddit, don't steal from Facebook, don't steal from the NFL, don't use TikTok unless you've got the rights for it. Synthetic data. We've talked about synthetic data before. Be very careful. If you use synthetic data to turn your LLM, well, hang on, someone else's LLM generated all the synthetic data. You're going to have a feedback loop, and so you're going to get a copy of a copy of a copy. And as Ed Norton can show us, you'll go crazy very quickly. So if you're using synthetic data, be very careful. Synthetic data presents a large risk to increasing hallucinations. Overall sustainability, legality is becoming a large issue, or has the potential to become a large issue. The White House issued its Bill of Rights, the AI Bill of Rights, and we can talk about that in an upcoming webinar. Just last week, Air Canada was ordered to pay a customer who was misled by the airline's chatbot. The airline chatbot essentially made up a refund, hallucinated a refund policy, and it told this customer. And so the customer said, great. And then that customer tried to do it. And then, whoops, that didn't exist. But the company is on the hook for that, because again, just like it's spelled out in the AI Bill of Rights, companies are liable for whatever their LLM tells their customers. Here again, a private LLM tuned to your own customer policies and your own customer corporate rules, theoretically will have much lower hallucinations, and with the fine tuning, and will be much more accurate. So the liability will be lower with a private LLM. Key to this all is training. Your LLM will be serving your executives, your LLM will be serving your analysts, your LLM will be serving your developers and your creatives, anybody all across your organization. They've all got different uses. They all have different things that they need from this LLM. So again, training for each person on how to interact with the LLM is key to success within your organization. So, some questions to ask for supporting your LLM. It depends on several factors. And let's just go through these here. Does the business have a headcount and expertise for model development? Can it adapt existing open source LLMs? And again, that Gen Pilot that I showed you, that's kind of what that tool provides for organizations. Does the business have the data scientists for data sourcing and model training? Does IT understand the risks of public versus private LLM deployments? Hopefully this today's webinar, and we're happy to share this PDF with anybody, might give people a running start on that. What existing cloud security is in place? And does the business hit a scale where added staffing, infrastructure costs, and added tech debt outweigh the SaaS costs? And again, there will be a price point where bringing things in private is going to be better. And I think that is the end. And I kind of raced through this in 20 minutes, so that gives you 10 minutes to go eat your sandwich. If it's 12:30 here, my time in Texas. It's a lovely day out. Everybody come on down. See you soon at South by. And if anybody would like this PDF for their own business, please let me know. Thank you so much.